Leaf fans are an interesting bunch. They are passionate, loud, and proud. This is despite the fact that they have not won a cup since 1967, which means as a consequence, no color photos actually exist of a Leafs Cup win. The closest they've ever come since then was thwarted by a blind referee with funny-looking hair. But why have they been so unsuccessful? Well, because of this man, Harold Ballard. His crankiness, abrasiveness, and cheapness destroyed what was a storied franchise. But what if Harold Ballard never owned the Leafs? Would things have been different? You bet they would. The first change compared to the regular timeline doesn't occur until 1961. In our timeline, Conn Smythe sold the Leafs to a three-person partnership of his son Stafford, Harold Ballard, and John Bassett. In this timeline, though, when Conn Smythe sells the Leafs, he sells the team only to Bassett. Even with this slight change in ownership, the 60s end up playing out largely the same way they did in our timeline. The Leafs win a few cups. However, the ripples of time in the space-time continuum do cause some change. The first big one happens in 1971. Instead of Ken Dryden standing on his head, beating the Bruins, and ultimately going on to win the Stanley Cup, Boston prevails in that series and goes on to win their second of 3 straight Stanley Cups. The true beginnings of the full divergence from the regular timeline, though, start to happen in 1972 with the formation of the WHA. The WHA still exists in this timeline, but under Bassett's ownership, the Leafs decide to actually pay to keep most of their players. This means that Bernie Parent never leaves the Maple Leafs to go to the WHA, meaning that he is not around to backstop the Flyers to their 2 straight cups. This ripple leads to the Flyers not actually winning the Stanley Cup in the 70s. The Flyers lose in the 74 finals to the Bruins, and they lose in the 75 finals to the Sabres. This is largely due to, well, what typically plagues the Flyers? Oh, I know! Lackluster goaltending! So, now that we know Bernie Parent stays in Toronto, what does that mean? And what happens to the WHA in this timeline, since Harold Ballard isn't around to be a hardliner against the merger? Well, let's start with the WHA first. The WHA merges with the NHL 2 years earlier than they did in our timeline, merging in time for the 77-78 season. 6 teams joined the NHL in this merger. The Edmonton Oilers, the Quebec Nordiques, the New England Whalers, the Winnipeg Jets, the Houston Aeros, and the Indianapolis Racers. As for Bernie Parent as a Maple Leaf through the 70s, well, Leaf fans, this means your cup drought is only at most 33 years, as the Leafs go on to win the 1979 Stanley Cup against the surprising Houston Aeros, as Parent goes on to win the Conn Smythe Trophy after stonewalling the Montreal Canadiens in the conference finals and leading the Leafs to an easy sweep of the Aeros. Montreal has their revenge in the summer, though. In the 1979 entry draft, the Montreal Canadiens select with the first overall pick.
He flips it out to center ice, and Gretzky has it. Gretzky down the left boards along with McKechnie. Gretzky controlling it inside the blue line. Gretzky getting set. He shoots. He scores!
The great one, Wayne Gretzky. That's right, Gretzky a hab. After this event, the timeline becomes unrecognizable, and it would be fruitless to pursue it further, as it would just become a Montreal love fest, and I want nothing to do with that. So, there you have it. While Harold Ballard was bad for the Leafs, think of it this way. If he never owned the Leafs, the Habs would have lit up the 80s with Gretzky. And do Leaf fans, or even more so, Bruins fans, want that? No, they don't. So, just hope that Brian Burke, or whoever the next guy is if Burke gets fired, can turn the Leafs around. The wait will just make that next cup so much sweeter.